And good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining us for another ATS University session. My name is Zach Allison. I am the ATS Market Development Manager. I manage the team of manage our market development team that works with various engineer and architectural firms across North America. My team more focuses on helping those firms onboard, get their masters, do demos, help add new users, teach the ins and outs of the ATS specification tool itself, which is a free, paid for by the manufacturers, specification and product selection software that helps you configure all your various product needs, from basins and faucets to water heaters and pumps. All sorts of products that are available. And if we have time at the end of this session today, I'll show you how you can find the products that we talked today, as well as a vast amount of other products. But to the topic at hand, we are doing another one of our ATS University sessions with one of our partners, where we try to do either a deep dive into a specific product or a application and template focused discussion, trying to recommend the right products for the right application, or sometimes, as we are today, a full AIA CEU accredited course where you can report your hours towards your whatever goals you have within those industries and those legislative bodies. So with me today is Gray from the Lixil team, who's going to be going over the scald protection in the commercial restroom presentation. What I will mainly be doing is moderating the chat, so I'll be keeping an eye on the Q&A and the chat field. So if you have any questions along the way, please feel free to pop them into the chat. We do have everyone muted upon entry, as per most online webinars these days. We've learned a lot from the early days of virtual sessions. But I guess without any further ado, I'll pass it over to you. Great, thanks for joining us. Do you want to introduce, this is a full accredited CEU session, correct?
Yep, this is right. The 1 full hour credit for listening to this today. So absolutely. And thank you very much. I appreciate that. And your comment about chat. Yes, if you have any questions as we're going along, I prefer to, if I get interrupted, and ask the question while we're presenting. Though, if not, we can certainly take questions at the end. But you have my permission to put it into chat and interrupt, and let, hopefully, as we go along. As I shared,
when you get to take a breath.
Okay, so I do want you to get credit for having to sit through this today. So the way to get credit is, if you haven't already, if you go to the website CEUevents.com, you'll find this event today in their events calendar, and you need to make sure you have registered for it. At the end of this presentation, you will get a 4-digit code that you put in into that registration, and you will get credit. And it's important that you get credit for this today. I know everybody out there needs their points to stay current, and I want to make sure that you do get them. So, of course, this is a certified CEU, and through AIA and IDCEC, and we want to make sure that we're following all the guidelines. So I promise that I will adhere to the standards of a good CEU. So our objective today is to find scalding and how it can be prevented, and in particular in the commercial restroom. Here in the United States, boy, and it might be in Canada too, maybe you guys know, but ASSC is it's the American Society of Sanitary Engineering. There we go. And they have a code standard for scald protection in public spaces, and that is identified as ASSC 1070. So we'll talk about that today. I want you to understand how an integrated thermostatic unit will improve commercial restroom faucet operation in all kinds of ways. And then again, I'll share a little bit about some of the faucets that are on the market that meet that ASSC 1070 standard. So we're going to talk. Oh, it is. Oh, excellent. I appreciate that. I appreciate that. That's what I get for being your classic American. Okay. The good. That's good to know. So we're going to focus today on commercial restroom design, and I'll go into that a little bit. What is scalding and how can it be prevented? what is the anti-scalding technologies out there, and what's the best way to implement it. So I just want to be clear up front. Anti-scalding and prevention is a big deal both in residential and commercial. And we are not going to talk residential anti-scalding today. We're going to talk commercial anti-scalding. So the things that are anti-scalding in residential, I'm sure you guys are familiar with it when it comes to showering systems, bathing and showering systems. Here in North America, you have pressure balance systems, which is unique to North America. We're the only one in the world that has pressure balance, or thermostatics. But here, the codes require for residential that you have one or the other so that you do not get scalded in the shower. Lesser known, the majority of single handle faucets sold in North America have some sort of mechanical hot limit stop on them. Not all of them. So it's one of those things you've got to check for in the spec sheets. I will share with you at Lixil, every single handle faucet that we make has some sort of mechanical stop to keep whether it's a bathroom faucet or a kitchen faucet, but every single handle faucet that we make that hot water is coming through, there is a mechanical device in there. It's set at the factory, but the plumber can set it, or even the homeowner can set the mechanical device. So just so you're all aware, it's one of those good things to look for. But that's not what we're going to talk about today. So right off the bat, I want to do something fun. Here I've got two pictures. This is obviously the Beatles. This is obviously Abbey Road. Can anybody see the differences between these two pictures? The two pictures are not identical. I know that looks like I've doubled the picture, but there are differences. So take a moment and see if you can come up with the differences between the two pictures. And the reason I'm doing this is, you got to quickly identify what is the when a situation is a scene, what you actually see, and how is it different, and how can you change it. So
I got it. Building in the top right. That's all I can spot so far.
Oh, interesting. I'm impressed you got that one. That's a good one. All right, so we'll jump to the conclusion here. So the picture on the left is the original picture. The one on the right has been photoshopped. And there's a number of things different. First off, Paul is not barefoot in the picture on the right. Okay, so that's a big deal. But more subtle, you got the one the building was edited out above the trees. But the two others in there, there's a street lamp that got edited out, and the stripes on the road. If you look back the road, one of the stripes was combined into a long one. So it's subtle, but there are differences. And those are the things we got to look out for. And that's what your code inspector's looking for when they come in, even though you think it's right. So again, what do you think are the differences between these two under sink installations? There's a lot, actually.
This one's a fair bit. It'll give the crowd some chance to look at it before I start saying some. I think the obvious one is obviously the insulation cover for barrier-free code.
Yep, they put the covers on, and that is for barrier. That's right. So your knees don't get burned. For the stops in the drain.
The glazed underside of the bowl.
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, excellent.
I guess the sensor operated faucet on the left, and could be sensor operated, could be manual on the right, because you got the electronic box.
Excellent. Very good. You actually did better than that I was looking for. So that's awesome. Yeah, the one on the left, for good reason, but you can see there's a lot going on underneath that sink between the protection. But there's the electronic box in there, and it's hard to see, but there's also a thermostatic mixing device under there. The one on the right-hand side, oh my gosh, there's none of that. It's all very much cleaned up and simplified. And that's one of the things, the trends that's happening in our marketplace today that I want to talk about, is this whole notion of simpler to install, simpler to maintain. So we'll get into the details of the ASSE 1070 code and certification, but basically the way we prevent scalding today is some sort of thermostatic mixing valve, a mixing valve of some kind to deliver water to the user that cannot scald them. So what we want to do is prevent critical scalding in commercial applications. And the common way is to regulate the water temperature, but those can add cost and complexity. So there is a simpler way to do it, and that's what we're going to talk about today. And so what's happening? Plumbing engineers can now streamline the restroom design, and by putting in a faucet that has a built-in thermostatic hot water temperature limiter already inside the faucet. And when the temperature limiter is incorporated directly into the faucet spout, the need for a separate under-counter thermostatic or mixing valve unit is eliminated. So what you do is you get this all-in-one basic installation that not only cleans up the installation, but saves time and money in the actual operation of it. So that's what we're going for here today. So what is scalding and how are we going to prevent it? So we've all experienced thermal shock. That's not what we're talking about. It's very unpleasant sensation when you're washing your hands and the water gets really uncomfortable, either cold or too hot. But water that is too hot is more than a minor inconvenience. It's actually unsafe and can cause irritation, serious burns within seconds, depending on the temperature. In fact, 34% of the admissions to burn centers are due to scalds. That's a pretty high number. And 8% of those incidents are occurring in the workplace, which is even more critical. So basically, recent research shows that over 500,000 scald burns occur annually in the United States. And so if 34% of those are coming in this situation, it could be a problem and it needs to be prevented.
And it's not a linear, that graph as it shows, it's not a linear progression, right? You know, your temperature to time,
yep.
It's logarithmic and
I appreciate that. So that little chart, I didn't go over it. It's actually an interesting one, isn't it? At 120 degrees, it takes 9 minutes to have a scald. As opposed to as the temperature goes up, you can see it at 140 degrees, it's 5 to 6 seconds. At 160 degrees, it is instantaneous. So you think you can do a little hot water, but in reality, it's pretty insidious. And you're right, the reaction time on the scald goes up exponentially as the temperature rises. Yeah, very good, very good. So a common misconception that water needs to be hot to eliminate germs when you're washing your hands. That I think everybody believes that, but this confusion might stem from the U.S. Food and Drug Administration's, the FDA's, food code, which stipulates that water temperature in dishwashing equipment should be 110 degrees. However, this guideline has no germicidal benefits. It was designed for the actual food, the dishwasher equipment, and it has to do with a temperature so that the chemicals in the dishwashing elements can loosen the food and remove it. But it's not the same as hand washing. So if you hand wash a dish, you actually don't need the temperature that high. That's for the equipment. So if you're at 100 degrees in hand washing, that's more than adequate. And in fact, the CDC, the Centers for Disease Control, and the World Health Organization, it's all about effective hand washing. The length of time you do it is actually more important than the temperature of the water. So it doesn't actually have to be hot water for it to happen. And that's why the CDC and the WHO all talk about when you're washing your hands to do it for 20 seconds or longer. The length of time you do it and how thoroughly you do it using a soap is actually what is germicidal. It's not the temperature of the water that is germicidal. So good to know. And one of the things. So the notion that hot is better just isn't true. In fact, Amanda Carrico, who is a research professor at Vanderbilt University, she came up, she realized that hot water can undermine good hygiene by damaging the skin, which can be less resistant to bacteria. And excessively hot water may also discourage workers from washing their hands because of skin irritation and the whole discomfort of it. So despite the evidence, many businesses still adhere to an outdated notion that hotter is better. This is true at hot water heaters themselves, which typically they can get set at 140 degrees. And the reason that a public hot water heater would be set so high is that they're trying to kill off Legionella bacteria. So that's a different goal than actually the germicidal effect of hand washing. Those are two different things. So we need to make sure that we disconnect those things. Hot water temperature versus the water that's being delivered physically at the source. So what causes water to fluctuate when washing your hands? Variations in the water temperature discharge from the water heater can be one of the things. Faulty thermostatic settings on the water heater. Malfunctioning of the temperature regulating valves can cause it. And of course, if you have a water main break that disrupts the cold water supply and boom, you're getting sent nothing but hot water. All of these can to deliver an unfortunate event and cause injury and loss of productivity and burns to the actual individual worker in the space. So there's a number of different things that can cause it. And sorry, I went too far. Okay, so I shared with you what we're going to talk about. What we're really concerned about today is ASSE 1070 compliant products. And again, ASSE is the American Society of Sanitary Engineers. And a device to comply must do the following. This device are intended to supply tempered water to the plumbing fitting or the integral, if it's an integral fitting faucet combination. It's the tempered water, and these devices shall be fixed, non-adjustable temperature setting, or the temperature setting can be adjusted and locked in position. These are all variations of this code, or adjusted with a use of a tool to protect against adjustment by the user. And then further mixing downstream is allowed. These devices have an integral water temperature limiting capacity. The user control allows the outlet temperature to be adjusted up to a maximum of 120 degrees. These devices provide scald prevention only and do not provide thermal shock protection. So again, there isn't just one solution, and I'll go along a number of the different ones and the different controls that come into place. But back to my residential before, typically there can be some sort of mechanical device that limits how hot it gets. But in this case, we take it one step further and we have a thermostatic device. And I just want to reiterate, it is supposed to be code in public spaces. What I'm talking about today should be, I know it isn't, but it should be in all public spaces, and such as offices, schools, hospitals, entertainment venues, movie theaters, airports, manufacturing facilities, and stadiums. They're all supposed to be compliant to this. And it really depends on the codes in the area, whether they are keeping it up to compliance or not. But it's supposed to be everywhere. And so I won't go through all of these, but ASSE has different codes. The 1016 is the one I talked about when I talked about with showers. And there are different ones for different delivery of water to users. But you can see down there, what we're talking about today is the ASSE 1070. It's just from the bottom. It is scald protection. It is not thermal shock protection. Downstream mixing is allowed. It's installed at or near the actual user and the fitting. It does not necessarily have final temperature adjustment. It can, but the controls and limits of the outlet water temperature to the fittings, such as sinks, lavatories, bidets, and bathtubs. So that's the one towards the bottom. If you're interested in all the others, please go look them up. But we're talking about this specific one here today. So there are two common methods to prevent scalding in a public place. Deliver tempered water to the faucet. That's one way to do it. So when you're at the faucet, the faucet's not doing a thing. It's just delivering the water that was mixed or tempered someplace else, or installing a thermostatic mixing valve before each faucet. are the two ways to do this. And Lixil and everybody, all the other manufacturers, we sell all kinds of faucets where all it is delivering water, or it has some sort of temperature control, or it has a thermostatic built into it. We'll go into some of those. So what are the advantages of it? So a 1070 certified thermostatic hot water temperature limiter automatically protects the user from scalding, of course, of hot water. The mixed water flows into a temper sensitive chamber, and it flows across the thermostat. The way a thermostat works, it's a wax element, and the wax reacts to changes in the water temperature. And what happens is the wax expands as the water temperature increases, and it contracts. It expands, which contracts how much hot water is coming through the faucet, and it'll expand to the moment where it completely shuts it off. As the water approaches the safety shutoff temperature 110 degrees, the wax element will expand so much it pushes the valve plunger closed and automatically shutting off the hot water. Now, what most people don't realize is the cold water continues to flow. It's not cutting off the cold. The cold will continue to flow, and the cold will start to cool down that wax element. The wax element will start to contract, and as the temperature comes back into an anti-scald range, the water will start to flow again. So the plunger retracts and it starts delivering hot water again. So it depends on the time and how hot it got, but the water will start to automatically resume once it drops below a certain temperature because of the wax element. So I know that really got into the weeds, but I want you to know that's how it works. And you can see the one in this picture. This happens to be one that Lixil makes, but the one in this picture comes with an optional little handle on the side that's ADA compliant, but the handle on the side lets the user adjust the temperature themselves. But notice it has a mechanical, the green thing in there, the B thing, it actually has a mechanical hot limit safety stop. So even at that point, the maintenance guy or the plumber can set that little lever so that the user cannot turn it so far as to scald themselves, even though the thermostat's in there to save them. It's sort of a second step that they can do. And the other thing I will share with you, in a public space, the building maintenance guy, in many of these faucets, this one in particular, if you want to not let the user adjust the temperature, the maintenance guy can use this little lever, set it to where they want, and then they take the handle off. They remove the handle, and a little decorative plug covers over that whole assembly. So there's multiple ways to scald this cat.
Well, and we see that often in, you mentioned a variety of public spaces. There's some that are, lower security, like an office building, where you may want to provide that optionality, but you can use the same product in, say, a stadium or a conference hall, where you really want to make sure there's a set temperature and you're worried, concerns about vandalism. One other thing I'd highlight here, just as we're talking about thermostatic elements in general, we mentioned the wax element. That's one of the newer technologies over the last couple of decades. Previously, there was a lot of bimetallic on the market, and then of course there is mechanical mixing valves for point of use as well that don't have that thermostatic adjustment. So just something to keep in mind as we're talking about the generalities of it. There is wax and bimetallic and these other methods, but most of the point of use ones, and I think this is true across manufacturers, is going to be a wax element.
I appreciate it. You're absolutely right, and I appreciate you adding that, because I'm focusing just on the thermostatic wax elements. Just full disclosure, probably the reason I'm working on that is the whole wax element thermostatic for public and resident was dreamed up by divisions of Lixil a long time ago, back in the 1930s. So yeah, that's why we're big on this. So yes, you're absolutely right. So what I want to share with you today is an integrated one. So unlike conventional faucets, an integrated sensor-operated faucet with a built-in limiter incorporates the battery, if it's battery powered, as opposed to hardwired. It incorporates the actual faucet itself has a brass manifold inside, and of course brass is the right material for this. Has that wax element that talking about so much. It has a solenoid in there. In this particular one, this is electronic. You can get manual ones also, but you all must know, gosh, given the global pandemic, we have so moved to people wanting to be touchless in public. So solenoids get us there. So it's touchless. And so an integrated temperature limiter offers several key advantages for architects, plumbing engineers, installers, and the building management. And it's all, you can see it. We joke here that it looks like a clown car. You have so much stuff stuffed into this one faucet, but it's really well engineered so that you get a unit that has all this performance. So it really simplifies the installation. So by all those elements I talked about, the power, the solenoid, the thermostatic, the adjustment unit, by all of that being designed physically into the spout, it frees up everything going on underneath the sink. And it does a couple of things. It makes it way easier to install. And if you have to work on it and maintain it, if I'm the maintenance guy, I don't have to crawl under the sink. If there's any issue that I'm having, I can easily work on it from the top. So it ends up being a major convenience, and it saves time and money. So just exactly what I talked about. It's much faster installation. You just drop this thing in from the top and hook up my supply lines, whether it's a single one or a hot and a cold supply line. And then anytime I've got to do any maintenance, there's a little hidden set screw underneath that uses an Allen key. I pop that off and I can access everything inside the faucet. Whether it's changing the battery, if it happens to be battery powered, or if I need to adjust the solenoid or adjust the actual thermostatic range is adjustable with a screwdriver, depending on if it's not right set for the correct codes and standard. But much simpler installation and much easier to work on and maintain. And so this is one of the key things that people need to be looking for. And this is not in my presentation, but I happen to know this. Very often, if you buy one of these units where everything is built into it as an integral component, they tend to be priced cheaper than if I buy the individual components separately. So yeah, the faucet's going to be more expensive, but then add on the cost of the faucet and the power pack and the thermostatic or mixing valve unit that has to, and the box to mount it and to go under. Not only is it take longer time and more expensive to install, but if you add up all the component parts, they tend to be more expensive than buying just the faucet with everything integral into it. So additional performance benefits that I know are important to your customers. Yes, we're using brass in this, but we meet all the lead-free standards, and you want to look for that. The other way to meet lead-free is plastic, and there are plastic ones out there, but again, you need to look for quality. You get what you pay for, kind of a thing. Hygiene, of course, is very important. So because we want it to be hands-free, like I say, so the notion of the electronics in there, hence the power coming into it. This could be power-free except for the touch-free aspect of this and the solenoid opening and closing. So that's where the public is trending, where they don't want to touch stuff anymore. And so if so, there are different power options. The easiest way to install is do a battery version. And we're getting pretty good battery life. It's like electric cars on the road. Technology is giving us really some pretty serious years in mileage on these installations. But if it is an installation where you want to do less maintenance and there's a lot of usage, there are also power options, either hardwired or plug-in power options. So you can see there are a whole range of variations of this, depending on your situation and what you want to put in there. So additional, wow, every once in a while I get a slide that I can't read. So scald protection and performance don't need to be mutually exclusive. Faucets with an integrated temperature limiter should provide the same efficiency, sustainability, and life cycle benefits that you would expect to find in a modern restroom. Oh, so this chart's all about water saving. That's where we're going on this. So again, the other thing that's happening in commercial restrooms, yes, we want scald prevention, but we also want to use less water. Now, sort of the conflicting things going on here, again, due to the pandemic, we want to use less water here in North America, but oh my gosh, we're now requiring that washing times up to 20 seconds at a minimum. Wash your hands singing the happy birthday song twice or singing the ABC song twice. So how do we balance between those two things of conserving water, but getting correct hygiene and making a sustainable product? So some of the advantages to all this is that we have engineered stream straighteners and aerators. Yeah.
I was going to wait for you to finish.
Oh, that drop the flow rate. So we're down. A lot of them on the market have a 0.5 or a 0.35 flow rate and still deliver the necessary performance. And the other thing that the win here is with the electronics, we have a better control of shutting it on and off. So it's not one of these where you manually can turn it on and someone walks out of the restroom leaving it running. We can save water because there's devices built in with the sensors and the electronics to make sure that we're not wasting water, or we can put the required amount of time, even to the point where we can program these faucets so they run for the 20-minute cycle. So people don't have to sing the happy birthday song twice. They know that the faucet's going to come on and they should wash their hands for the length of the time the water is running. But it shuts off precisely because we do want to conserve water. That's where I was going. Okay.
Perfect. Well, and I was going to chime in when it comes to
Yeah.
water systems. One of the other issues with point of use and some of the other mixing valves, say you want to do a larger bank of labs, you may put a single mixing valve for say 5, 6 labs. But if that minimum activation level for that mixing valve is too high, say it's above 0.35, then you can't be using it. That's one of the challenges that mixing valves have had. Is you need a certain amount of flow through it in order for it to work properly, and it couldn't react. So that's where some of those temperature effects that you were talking about earlier can come in, where it's kind of bypassing the actual mixing valve's element, and that's why these point of use ones are a nice meet in the middle. You have that lower flow rate and reactivity to it instead of having a large or a larger mixing valve that can't meet or can't be activated by a single faucet.
Boy, and you just reminded me of something else that's also a win. If we have an individual thermostatic unit in each faucet, one of the challenges we all have is that as the flow rate has come down, this is true in showers too, but as the flow rate comes down, it takes longer to get rid of all the cold water so that the warm water shows up and you get a tempered, comfortable water. If you have a central mixing valve, oh my gosh, you've expanded the length of time it takes, especially at the lower flow rates, to empty out all the cold water and it's there and being delivered the tempered water. You get faster response with an individual unit. So
you just brought up the central mixing valve aspect, and maybe I'm jumping, maybe you covered this later on. Here's the easy question, and there is an easy answer to it as well. Why do they not just have a central mixing valve that has a set point at say 105 or easy? Now you don't need a temperature limiter on each device.
All right, and the answer?
Well, it comes down to Legionella control, right? Situations where we have conflicting standards.
Thank you.
So at one point, we're trying to provide hand washing at a comfortable level that allows people to wash any germs off their hands. But on the other, we're trying to protect our piping system and prevent any bacteria from living and growing inside our pipes. So like you mentioned, there can be stagnant water inside your pipes, which is, decreasing to a lower temperature. Now all of a sudden you're breeding ground for bacteria. Wet, dark, colder environments, that's the breeding ground. So that's where the Legionella control comes in, which says you must be above 120, and then you have a separate code saying you must be below 120. So that's where the 2-point combination comes in. It's kind of similar to, to completely jump into another part of our plumbing system, to a PRV setup, where maybe you want a 50 or 60 or say a 60 psi output temperature or output pressure, and you have a 210 or 200 degree income or 200 psi incoming. You're not doing that all with one valve. Two valves work together to get there, so that you don't have major cavitation. It's the same thing here with our mixing our temperature selection. We need two valves to do it properly. We need a valve to make sure it's above a certain temperature, and we need a valve to make sure it's below a certain temperature.
Thank you. What a great team effort here today. That was great, because I wasn't going to cover every of that, and some of the I just learned from you. So that's great. And it's true. It's true. One of the challenges all of us have, everybody on this call, is that we're trying to provide quality, safe experience to our clients and consumers and users out there with conflicting codes. You know, how do I anti-scald but anti-legionnaires? You know, those are two. How do I have enough flow rate but conserve water? It's a true Rubik's cube, and the onus is on all of us to understand what's going on or seek the advice and professional help.
I may as well plug it while we're here. You know, I'm going to do it later on.
Yeah.
I'm going to finish up anyways. But if you want to learn more, there's always the previously recorded ATS University sessions on our ATS webinar portion, where certainly over the time we've covered hot water delivery, we've covered Legionella control. So there's lots of great information available there.
And I'm a fan of additional training. I will share with you guys. I learn every day. I'm always. You can't get too much training on this, because it is a complex universe to work in. It really is. So don't be afraid, but do your research and go look up and get help. So that's great. That's great. So some of the benefits I talked about. You want to look for good construction, because these are public spaces. So brass construction, of course, is the right way to go. Metal construction in general. Anything you want to look for features that help it be vandal resistant. I know nothing is vandal proof, but whatever we can do to make it vandal resistant. And then I talked about how electronics has come into this world. There are certainly manual still out there, but the public user community is evolving towards touchless. And along with that, by bringing power to this, we have sensors and programs. There's actually a whole computer program. There's a little computer chip inside the sensors with multiple programs in it. But what that allows us to do is that either at site from the factory, they come completely programmed, but you can adjust, make adjustments to the sensor range, the time, the programming, the metering. There are all sorts of things where you can customize the individual faucets on the site to deliver a need. You talked about stagnant water. One of the things you can program these electronic faucets to do is a flush. So if I go 48 hours over a weekend at a healthcare facility, I can program in there that each day it flushes out the water, so that the water does not sit in the lines and have a chance to be stagnant. Those are the kind of options.
You know, we
that
use
electronics
that a lot in school applications, where you have that void, either say over a long winter break or a long summer break. You can set a single activation just to keep water flowing.
Yep, all good stuff. So all of these advantages for architects, engineers, specifiers, facility managers who are looking for dependable scald protection. An integrated thermostatic hot water temperature limiter provides a safe restroom experience. And ASCE 1070 certified devices eliminate the added cost of having to specify, install, and maintain all the separate elements in this. The real goal here is, how do we simplify it? Just a shout out, if you all have ever heard me before, your plumber, whoever your plumber is, whatever you think of your plumber, hug your plumber. We need plumbers. We don't have enough plumbers. Do not piss off your plumber. I really mean that sincerely. Faucets like this allow the plumber to get more work done and effectively. We have fewer plumbers. We need to be specifying elements that don't complicate their life. We need them focusing on solving the problems and doing the thing we need them to do, not a lot of installation and maintenance on other things. So anything we can do to simplify the plumber's life, this is where I'm going with this. Anything we can do to simplify the plumber's life is a good thing. We make it easier for the plumber to use and install. It ends up being easier for the maintenance crew to install. Again, another thing we don't necessarily have enough of in a public space. I will share with you, I wasn't going here on this. I happen to know that the industry, you will see very soon in the industry, you will see products that take it to the next level with integrated Wi-Fi communication. So all of these devices in a public space are connected to some sort of Wi-Fi mainframe. And what that does for them, if the maintenance guy has a cell phone, which I'll bet he does, there can be an app on the phone that lets him know, A, if something's wrong, if something's out of spec, if something's out of whack, if something's running and needs to be fixed, as opposed to him having to check all the time to make sure nothing's wrong in one of the public restrooms. There will come a day when if something does go wrong, the internal system will not only shut it off or take care of it or stop the problem in the moment, but immediately alert the maintenance crew that there is a problem. What is the problem? How do they need to take care of it? And even more important, where is it? Which floor is it on? Which restroom is it in? Which faucet is it? Which flush valve is it? But that's all technology that's in the works now, and you will see emerge in the industry within the next year, I predict. So it just keeps getting, but it's, we all expect that now. I'll be honest with you, one of the things plumbers, like I say, love your plumber. There aren't enough of them. The plumbers, the reason it's being developed is the plumbers have asked us, why can't I get an app to control all this and to make all this work? And there are apps out there now, and you're going to see it expand going forward. So I do want to share with you, there are other ones in the market. The one I talked about was the one here on the left where it's all integral, that's electronic. There are more affordable models that do have thermostats built into them. There are other ones on the market. You can see there's one here from Powers and from Chicago Faucets. The only thing I'll say about those is, again, they're not touch-free. You do need to physically, manually work with them. But do check it out. There's a lot of stuff out there. Investigate, but there are continuing to be good and new solutions coming forward. So that's my presentation. And any other questions? And thank you. What an excellent discussion. You actually made the presentation better than it was. So, but any other questions come into chat?
Nothing coming up so far. We'll give it a pause. I know the number one question will probably be, how do I get the number to self-report?
Well, let's do that. We'll just do that.
Yeah, we'll pause and see if any additional questions come in, and then I'll show how you can find some of the products on any of the spec tools available online. It's interesting.
But yeah, anybody out there? Yeah, go ahead.
I think we also have a presentation either later in the year, or maybe it was last year, when we talked about the Bluetooth and IoT integrations that are coming in the market. You know, there's a lot of,
it's all coming.
Right? Yeah. Right down to knowing, like, say you have a bank of lavs 1, 2, 3, knowing that, you know, lav number 2 needs the battery replacement sooner because it's used more often, and that ties into your soap refill stations and all that jazz as well. So there's a lot of great options coming in there. I haven't seen any other questions come in for now. We'll give it another minute, and then
yeah. And again, anybody who hasn't registered, if you just go to CEUevents.com to attendance, once you're registered, you just put this code in and you will get credit for what you just listened to.
So why don't we, I guess for now, once you stop sharing, I'll take over and show how you can find the products on the spec tools today. And then we can bring this back up if people end up needing after.
Sounds good.
Yeah, so just as a reminder, American Standard, as well as about 40, almost 50 other manufacturers, are partners with the ATS spec platform. What ATS does is build software tools that assist the design industry. Everything from, a product visualization and SKU management system for like locker room design to, quotation tools and cross-reference tools for various manufacturers and wholesalers. But one of our long-standing tools in the industry, which started ATS and started it back as a book, is our ATS, spec.com website now, which recommends products that go together. So if you were putting together like the basin that we saw, it would help you select your basin, your faucet, your traps, your supplies, your carrier, make sure that it all meets barrier-free code. And that barrier-free code would be compliant to whether or not you are building in California, if you need to meet the Texas ability standards, if you are building in New York and need a specific P-trap, if you're building in British Columbia and need the BC building code, versus Ontario, where they have the Ontario building code, versus the East Coast, where you have the national building code. Lots of fun confusion across Canada, as every province, at least so far, still has their own provincial standards. It's a sign-up based system, free for users to sign up, and it is integrated into almost like a firm-based account. So if I am, WSP, Stantec, NOR, all across Canada and the US are big users of the system. So they may have individual offices for their location, and they can share projects across not just that office, but California could share with Florida, and share masters, share projects, work together. That was one of the features that we launched over the pandemic. The ATS, there's a couple of different versions of this tool out there now. We have our atsspec.com website where we have our multi-branded tool. And then you can see up at the top here, I've got a different tab for the Lixil spec tool, which is just the Lixil product. So it really depends how you want to interact with the system. Some people do have brand preferences where, you're very focused on just the Lixil products. You can have just the Lixil products there. Same as many other of our manufacturers that have their own versions of these tools where you can get, just each individual manufacturer's product. Whereas the ATS spec tool, our ATS version, is more the integrated multi-branded version. From this homepage, before you even log in, you can see I've got the templates hub here. We've got our learning hub, which, as I mentioned, there's all those previously recorded sessions. So just by hitting templates, you'll come to this page here, where I mentioned earlier on in the presentation, we're big on having discussions and providing options around the right product for the right application. That's where our templates come in. You can see we've got mechanical room template, long-term care facility, commercial A washroom template, et cetera, et cetera. We're continuing to build these out. We just launched the high traffic one December last year. We have another version launching in the next couple of weeks, which has been a Herculean effort by many people on our teams. There's a lot of product that goes into hospitals. So that's my quick tease. We have that launching in the coming future. These are, in essence, the ATS masters. When we do a hospital, this is what we recommend. When we do a condo, this is our good, better, best options. And then a lot of firms will take these as a starting point to make their own master, which can be copied and pasted, across off. Again, if you are an office with multiple locations, you want to ensure a degree of accuracy, a degree of standardization across your residential projects. You could have a master that your team can pull from, whether you are in, Seattle, whether you are in, Chicago, Minnesota, Dallas. They can all be pulling from the same master and choosing the products that a admin or the creator of the firm have decided these are approved. And then you can learn more about these products. Again, you go to Architects and Engineers Learning Hub. You can see all our recorded sessions and our training on demand. You can see we just did a presentation recently on corrosive waste. We talked about new pivot panels and pump panels, high traffic applications, sustainability. There's the last one that you did for me when we discussed the next generations of shower design. So lots of topics. You can, of course, search, find different information. And then one thing I wanted to show, so once you log in, you've got your dashboard, you can create projects, masters, quick specs, and then you can access the templates here. Very low level introduction. And of course, if you want more detail, reach out to me. I can give a longer presentation on this and help train you or your team individually. Projects is anything that is a little bit more application specific. You want a rule engine applied to it. We need to know the location so that we can apply the correct rule engine. Whereas a quick spec is just as it sounds. I'm looking just for a faucet. I know exactly the model number, or I know approximately the model number. I can go quick spec, hit the plus button, and in a matter of seconds, be building a selection. I can go bop, go faucet, finish. And there's no rule engine applied. You're getting all the product info, and then you just search by your category, or search by model number, or search by category again. So I can go into faucet and find, it was proximity, right? Was one of the ones we talked about. So there's all the different.
There it is.
That
yep,
come with
there's the one I talked about.
Brand.
Yep.
And right at the top, I can then configure it. So if I'm doing a ultra low flow, this is one of the differences between ATS and a number of other ways that you can get product information. Most sources just have, here's everything, cut and paste on your own. That's what a spec sheet is, which is linked here as well. So I can get the manufacturer's spec sheet from this website. I can configure it to be exactly what I want on the website, and then I can download it in any of the 10 different formats, all on the spec tool. That's kind of the reason that you come here. Because again, most places are just going to give you the base model or a non-updated spec, and then you go through, maybe copy and paste this, but that's not really always the format that you want. So once you're happy with your product selection, let me go back. I don't need a discussion plate. I've selected my flow rate. I've selected my thing. Of course, I can hit reset, reselect everything, add product, and be done my quick spec. That's kind of the idea of the quick spec. Get it done fast. So I'll hit complete, and then I can just go, yep, this is the one. I want to download it, and I can download it in submittals, product brochures, a fixture schedule in Excel, long spec, short spec, manufacturer spec, Revit, all your particular CSI specs. So if you're following that CSI 3-part spec format, all of the American Standard, Lixil, Growy, DXV products are available in a CSI 3-part spec here. And it's not a generic version, it's the customized, configured version to your product. So again, if I was going on projects, I did want to show, so we talked quick specs, projects, masters, I kind of briefly mentioned it. If you have a master and you have a new, I've got my scald protection webinar project file that I created here. If I want to add to this from a master or a template, I can go to my masters, my condo amenity space master. I could then just copy my condo master into my project file. I could copy, I'm in my demo account here. So my mechanical room, I could copy my mechanical room to the faucets that I've selected. Whereas again, the masters is kind of your configured version. The templates is our ATS version. So here's that scald protection webinar that I put together just before we jumped on. You get a couple of lab options here where I've got a basin, a basic faucet, a point of use mixing valve that meets with 1070 and clutters up beneath the sink, and my drain. And then I've got that same temperature adjusted 1070 approved product. If I want to change this faucet, I could just hit edit, jump into that point in selection. Let's again go to add product, where I could either sort through, find my category. But one thing we launched last year, which I love, I'm on the site all the time, I can pin my favorites. So now I can have my showers, my faucet, my toilets, which are the things I'm using most often, right at the top. I could pin my basins. I could go pin, say, flush valves, whatever you find that you're using regularly. So let's go again into faucet. And you get all those different faucet types. And you can see you got everything from the kitchen faucet, 361 different faucets between the Lixil brands. Good luck, sorting through those. But of course, we can go and sort by sensor type. I can sort by, number of handles, flow rate. We're launching a feature in the future that will allow you to sort by, different certifications. So you could search WaterSense labeled. So those are all coming in the near future. So again, we talked a bit about the formats. I do want to show, I guess before I jump over to the actual format, just like before, just hit the box. You can see I can select all drawings. I can deselect certain drawings and hit download a submittal and a schedule. It'll just spinning wheel, load it up. And you'll be able to download all those different products, all those different file types in one zip folder, which is how you get something like this, which I see I've run long in the mouth, long in the tooth. I should quicken this up, make sure we hit on time. Here's an Excel schedule. We've gone through to make sure that the category headers match the industry standards. So we did a big review a couple years ago of all the product schedules that hit market for accessories, for water heaters, for backflow, for fixtures, to make sure that the headers are the most common headers. We've gone through, and this is just one of the written formats. And of course, everything is open and editable. We understand that this may just be a portion of your entire product selection. So, if you have another carrier that you're using, if you have another fixture drain that you're using, you can just copy and paste what you need, remove what you don't, and go along with your day. Insert this into your own written specs. So if you are using, say, a master spec system that your firm has paid for, the CSI format will actually match that formatting and give you an updated, current manufacturer approved version of that CSI master spec format. So again, versus having your generic master spec, which is going to be, maybe at 924 0XX, which then needs to be customized and configured. This will give you the accurate version. And then lastly, wanted to show a couple of the PDF versions. I mentioned the master spec format. This is our manufacturer spec format. Gives you a nice title page, table of contents, a list of all the components that's going in there. So if you're doing shop drawing review, there's just another way that you can use the tool. Not everyone is going to use this all the time, but if you want to compare shop drawing review of what was submitted to you versus what you selected and specified on the system, then it'll give you that information. This is our ATS submittal format, which of course you'd have your firm's logo here. Shows you multiple manufacturers, multiple products on a single page. So this is great for, say you're deciding between products and you're reviewing as a design team between architect, engineer, owner. You can sit this down, you can have your manual version, your sensor operated version, and just kind of review it together. Confirm, does it have the flow rate I'm looking for? Does it have the certifications I'm looking for with the 1070 compliant integrated mixing valve? Do I like the look, the finish? If not, I can then just jump back over to the spec tool. I could revise and select a different finish, and maybe go with a brush nickel, or Growy's got the Starlight Chrome, right? So we could reset and go with our brush nickel finish, reselect our single hole, adjust our flow rate down to the ultra low flow, and in a matter of seconds, be done with that whole revision discussion. So then it's updated, download again, done, good to go. So that's the short version of the ATS and Lixil spec tools. If you want more detail on that, please feel free to reach out to myself, Zach at atsspec.com, or any of your market development partners from our ATS team, whether that's Mel, Natalia, Mo, Phil, our entire customer success team, whatever you have. If you want to learn more about, I just let my Canadian show, I'm sure, more about the various products that we've discussed over time, visit atsspec.com, go to the ATS webinar section, and you can see the multi-generational shower discussion that we had. If you have any further questions on the subject at hand today regarding scalding, please feel free to reach out to Gray as well if you need that code for follow-up on the AIA submittals. And lastly, as with every one of our ATS University sessions, we will have a certificate of attendance sent out as well. This is more for the self-reporting crowd. Obviously, AIA is a step above, but we have a self-reporting crowd that just needs like a certification sent out. So we have that sent out. And as with always, thank you so much for joining me. Hope you learned a lot today. Thank you for the great questions. Thank you, Gray, for your time. That was a fantastic discussion, as always. I always love doing these presentations with you.
Agreed. I learned stuff today, Zach. It was what a good one. And again, I just put the code up again just to be sure. I want to make sure people do get credit.
Fantastic.
And one last thing, Zach. I know we're over time. I just learned it's important not to confuse editable from edible.
Yes.
You don't want to mix those two up.
Editable. Yes.
Some things are edible, some things are editable, but
is there a dog
ATS
homework joke coming here? Is that what we're heading into?
I wish. No,
right,
I'm sorry. That's all I got.
Taking up more of time. We'll say thank you once again for joining us. Feel free to come back next time for more of Gray and Zach fantastic stand-up.
Yep.
Have a great day, y'all.
Thank you so much, everybody. Yep. Thank you.